There's this kind of war on consciousness going on right now on the planet where there's different negative beings that are influencing the surface population, and then there are positive beings that are benevolent. So there's malevolent beings trying to influence powerful leaders, trying to influence powerful figures to garnish the attention of people to then control the power dynamics. And then there are positive beings that are trying to help us ascend, and many of them are connected to, I think, our higher selves or other parallel incarnations of us, helping us ascend into a higher vibrational level of consciousness. We're going to get a little bit weird in this episode, or a lot bit weird. I want to talk about different conspiracy theories about what's really going on right now. I want to talk about ET connections that I believe many of us may have. I want to talk about some Q&A, some questions that people are asking me about the election, what's going on right now, what are my personal opinions or perspectives on different things. I'm going to share that. And I just want to say as well that I'm just reporting. I laugh when I say that because my buddy Matt the other day, I was in Colorado, and he did this funny bit on me. We put it on Instagram, but he did like this. He was reenacting me in a way. And he was like, look at this whiteboard right here. You see this whiteboard? Yeah, I'm only going to point at it for a second. I'm not really even going to use it, but I'm going to point at it maybe 4 times in this whole video. Because that's, I guess, what I do with my whiteboards. And then he did this thing where he's like, all right, guys, I'm just the reporter here. Don't get mad at me. I'm just a reporter. Because back in the day when the stuff happened at the beginning of the year, I call it the he who must not be named. Because when you say the name on YouTube, it automatically demonetizes a video, the name of the thing that happened. So I call it he who must not be named, or Voldemort. When that was happening, I was like, I'm just reporting what people are telling me. People are planting bricks in places, and there's bricks that have been planted in places, and people are being instigated, and there's this undercut. Like, I'm just telling you what people are telling me that are at these rallies. Man, my hands get yellow when I get out of the cold plunge, and then I come to do this. And, like, my fingers get really yellow. And I always have to warm them up, but it's when I'm on video. Because if you don't know, also on the there's Spotify, there's iTunes, and then there's also the second YouTube channel where I record the videos of these. For those of you that like videos. But, yeah, this episode's going to get pretty freaking weird. So just be forewarned. I'm not saying this video or this video or this podcast is for everybody. But if you're still listening right now, it's for you. Okay? You're my people. So, first off, reptilians. Okay, I'm just kidding. Now, actually, let's talk about that. So, I was going to go just the weirdest thing that I thought I could talk about. And I wrote down a couple things, and then there's a whole bunch of questions that I want to answer on understanding this larger view of what actually may be happening. So, let me first off say that when we look at the election, it's going on right now, probably be contested for a couple months is my guess, figuring out what's going to happen there, because there's a whole bunch of voter fraud that I believe was happening, that a lot of people are saying is happening. I mean, there's literally dead people voting. There are some people that say this. I'm not saying this is true. I'm just the reporter. Some people are saying that one of the things with he who must not be named that happened at the beginning of the year, the thing, that was in a way exaggerated. Not to say it doesn't exist, but that was exaggerated so that then there'd be this mail-in ballot thing where it was very easy to manipulate votes because that was the only way to get the person that's in office out of office. That's some people's conspiracy theory. Is it true? I don't know. I'm just reporting, okay? I'll let you decide. But then what happens is when you look at Biden, for example, let me just say this, not to say that everyone doesn't have their flaws and not to say that everyone's not controlled at some level, but the surface level things that we see are normally orchestrated from deeper level factions. So when you look at someone like Biden, who is completely controlled, and the dude can hardly talk. I'm not trying to talk smack here. But if you let Joe Rogan has a whole segment on it, like there's if you look at different speeches that he's given and stuff, you forget what he's saying. There's talk that maybe he has some type of mental. It's like a serious thing. Like he might have mental, like dementia or something like that, which is a very sad thing that some people go through. But that was the candidate that they chose that could bring about a certain agenda. And not to say that Trump's not like that too. Very well could be. He could be being controlled by deeper levels of different agendas as well. I think he's maybe a little bit less controllable, is the opinion I have, because he kind of does his own thing and he's very polarizing. But I think that the elite, many of you may have heard me talk about the conspiracy theory behind the elite, and that there's people on the planet that know how reality works, and what they do is they control the attention of millions of people on the planet. And if you can control the attention of million people on the planet and the belief systems of them, you can then control the energy dynamics and the power dynamics. And one of the theories that these elite people live by, which these elite people are some very big celebrities that are also puppets. Some people think, oh, certain celebrities, these are the people that are running things. No, there's deeper levels of people you've probably never seen before. Certain celebrities are just the surface level that, because they garnish so much attention, that attention is power. So if they act in a certain line, if they do certain things, then they get rewarded, or they get to be part of some like little secret group thing. So they're at the very surface level. Same thing with the president or the president-elect. It's to bring about a certain agenda. Some agendas, I think, some agendas worse than others. And when you look at what's happening, part of the theory or the idea is that both are controlled. Maybe one is controlled more than the other. I believe Biden may have more of the elite behind him because he is willing to bring about any agenda. And I think these things are very well calculated. And there's some questions that we're going to get to in a little bit, but that kind of play on that, and I'll go deeper into that. But when we talk about conspiracy theory, aliens, all this stuff, let me back up a little bit and explain a little bit of something I've explained in other videos. And it'll sound woo-woo, I understand that. But when we talk about that, for example, the Dolores Cannon books, many of you have heard me share them before. The Dolores Cannon books were not even written by Dolores Cannon. Dolores Cannon has transcripts of thousands of people that have been in a deep level of hypnosis called QHHT, which stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And what happened is these people go deep into their subconscious mind. She asks them questions, and people from all over the world who did not know each other said very similar things about why they're here right now on the planet. And these transcripts came over the course of like 20, 30, 40 years of her doing her work. Now, some of the things are very interesting. Many of it has to do with understanding that we are multidimensional beings having temporary human experiences, that we exist at many levels of consciousness. Right now, we are awake in this level of consciousness, but there are many different levels that exist, and there are even not just past lives that we've had or future lives that we've had, but we have lives on different star systems, something that is talked about in Dolores Cannon material. It is also talked about in the Law of One material. Bashar talks about it. Jane Roberts talks about it. Many ancient teachings talk about this. But when we talk about extraterrestrial civilizations, understand this universe is a very vast place. And because it is so vast, sometimes we get into this thought that maybe I've only ever incarnated on Earth. I've only incarnated on Earth. I'm a human. That is it. When in actuality, you are an eternal spiritual being. You exist at many different levels. And because of that, your soul, your spirit is so vast that you would not only incarnate on one small part of the whole entire multi-universe. So that's something to think about. So a lot of times when we think of these extraterrestrial civilizations and we're afraid of ETs, we're afraid of other aspects of ourself that we have connections to. And I think that when they say that in the future ETs will be something that we have contact with, well, guess what? We're going to have contact with literally parallel incarnations of ourselves. I told you this episode was going to get freaking weird. But this is about understanding our multidimensionality. Now, here is the thing about the human experience on Earth. When we come to Earth, we forget who we are. That's what makes it so freaking challenging. We come here and we forget that we are eternal spiritual beings having temporary human experiences. And when we forget that, part of the reason is we forget so we can remember. It's part of the game. There's free will here on earth. So there's other places in the universe that we go, according to these many books, that we retain our memory of who we are. Even as babies, because we're raised in a place with not so much negative social conditioning and fragmentation to our own soul, we grow up with the awareness that we are eternal spiritual beings. We grow up remembering who we are, maybe even remembering why we incarnated on that planet. Here, we forget. Some people remember, or some people know. There's some people that were enlightened, or maybe even other people that remember. I've talked to clairvoyant people that literally remember being in their mom's womb, why they went into their mom, the soul contract they had with their mom, and then coming here on earth, and they remember some of that. There's people that do. You don't have to be enlightened. But we forget who we are so we can remember who we are. So according to the Dolores Cannon material, back in the 1930s, there was a call that was put out as the U.S. and different places on the planet were starting to experiment with nuclear bombs. Now, the way this reality works is we are allowed to do whatever we want on free will on our planet, but when nuclear bombs started going off, it started to not only affect our reality, but it would ripple out and affect other realities as well. Well, this is when Earth put out a call. Now, Earth is actually, this is where it's going to get weird for you guys. I know this, and I'm just reporting a lot of what I've learned through thousands of hours of researching this stuff, and I just find it fascinating. Earth herself is a being. The sun is a being, is a living being. And the law of one, it talks about this. The logos, it's almost like we're all connected to a collective consciousness, and Earth herself is a living being. It's like almost maybe a group soul consciousness. I don't know. But nonetheless, Earth put out a call that said, hey, these are about to destroy me. They're doing nuclear bombs. It's affecting the atmosphere, and it's affecting other realities. And in the Dolores Cannon material, what it says is that there was a call that was put out that says, yo, I need help. And what happened is many, many millions of souls heard the call. They may have been in 5D. They may have been in the Pleiades, chilling, drinking 5D nectar of kombucha, chilling with 5D puppies. And then guess what? They heard the call, and they're like, I got to go back. And many people that came back were people that had a connection to Earth, maybe in Atlantis times, maybe in past lives. Maybe they're doing other stuff on different, planetary systems. But they decided to come back. Now, they knew it was going to be hard. Many of you listening to this are part of this. You knew it wasn't going to be easy. Coming back to Earth, having forgotten who you are. You know you're going to forget who you are. You're going to go through some pain and stuff. But that it's going to be beautiful. That it's the time on the planet to really influence the planet in a positive way. And that we came here to wake up. We came here to remember who we are. And that's what makes a lot of our lives difficult in the beginning, because we forget who we are. I went through a lot of child abuse growing up, not knowing who I am, a lot of confusion, but that led me to a spiritual awakening. So many of us chose life paths where we experienced a lot of pain early on in life so that it could propel us into doing our own personal growth. Now, part of the reason there was nuclear bombs and there was this harming going to the planet is because there are certain beings, there's good, benevolent ET races, and there are negative ET races that have service, what in the Law of One book material calls service to self or service to others. Now, service to self would include that of possibly that reptilian race. The reptilians are a fourth, this is going to get weird, I know. The reptilians are a fourth density race, which means we're in third density right now. Fifth density is like a higher density of unconditional love and bliss, and it's a potential that we could have one day on Earth. I don't know how long away, but it's possible. We're moving right now into fourth density, or I think we've already moved into fourth density, and it's where life becomes very much like a dream. We're becoming more crystalline in nature. We're becoming less carbon. Talks about this in the Law of One material and many other ancient wisdom, different cultures talk about this, but we're moving into what is called our light body, and we're doing it in physical form. Now, the way this reality works is it can be influenced at higher levels. So even though the reptilians, I don't think all reptilians are bad. I think there's some people that maybe incarnate into the reptilian bloodline so that they can wake up and and kind of undo some of that negative karma. But reptilians, which is also talked about in a show called Cosmic Disclosure, which is on Gaia TV. That is a show that talked a lot about this, especially when Corey Goode was on in the earlier seasons before they took it down. There's many other whistleblowers that have worked with the government before that have talked about this. There's a guy named William Tompkins. That is a guy that was on Cosmic Disclosure. Before he passed away, he was 80 or 90 years old. This guy is as straight as an arrow, and he had so many credentials in the Army, it was crazy. This is not a woo-woo guy that was just trying to get famous or anything like that. This is literally a guy that you can tell has done it, and he was in the Army or Navy or something like that. But basically, he talks about reptilians. You can probably find it on YouTube. Type in William Tompkins interview or something. He talks about reptilians, their spacecraft, how they worked with the Nazis back in the day, the German Nazis, and how they made deals. And there's this whole larger thing going on that the surface population on Earth is not aware of. And in the show Cosmic Disclosure, Corey Goode, who is a part of the secret space program, talks about it. There are many other whistleblowers that talk about it as well. And either these people are telling some, like, the truth at some level, or they are the most creative people you've ever met, more so than J.K. Rowling with the Harry Potter books. And that says a lot coming from me, because I love Harry Potter. There's also a conspiracy theory that Harry Potter was written by a whole bunch of people that studied, like, Jungian archetypes, and that it took years for them to make it. It was all planned out before she even started. I kind of think that might be true, because it was so genius. Not that I'm trying to take power away from J.K. Rowling, but maybe that happened. I don't know. But anyways, there's a lot of consistency with these other whistleblowers who don't know each other, many of them, who say very similar things, but basically, we've had connection to the stars for a long period of time. And part of Cosmic Disclosure is that there is what is called the LOC, the Lunar Operations Command, on the moon, and it's been there for a while. And there are people there that are doing different things. But there's this kind of war on consciousness going on right now on the planet, where there's different negative beings that are influencing the surface population, and then there are positive beings that are benevolent. So there's malevolent beings trying to influence powerful leaders, trying to influence powerful figures to garnish the attention of people to then control the power dynamics. And then there are positive beings that are trying to help us ascend, and many of them are connected to, I think, our higher selves or other parallel incarnations of us, helping us ascend into a higher vibrational level of consciousness. Now, there's people on the planet that don't want us to raise our vibration to a higher level of consciousness, because as we do that, collectively, it is changing the vibration of the planet, and when that happens, the negative entities cannot exist here in a high vibration, and they won't have power because too many people will be awake. So what they do is they influence powerful people. They influence and get agendas made, because many of these beings may be non-physical. And what they do is they influence that of some of the surface population of powerful figures to get them to kind of go down negative paths to get and attain power, and it becomes like this trade-off in a way. Just like the reptilians may have worked with that of the Nazis back in the day. Traded, done things very negative. And it talks about this, by the way, in the Law of One, which is some of the most profound channeled material written in the 1980s. Many of the things talked about stuff that science would eventually learn, and they came to be true. And not just that, though. Also, they talk about some things in science that actually came out to be true eventually, but the guy that was the husband of the wife that was channeling the information of the 5 Law of One books, the husband was a physicist. He asked very detailed, very deep questions. So it's not like it was some guy that was like, "Hi, so who are we?" And then no, it's like it was very detailed, advanced questions from a physicist that talked about what's going on right now. It's called the harvest. There's a harvesting going on right now, and it's been going on for a while, and it'll continue to go on. And this harvesting is where different souls have the ability to up-level their level of consciousness. And at a mass level, we have the opportunity in these like almost seeds that are planted within our consciousness for us to transform and to wake up from the dream. literally wake up to all the craziness and the reaction that's going on in the world right now. So because that's another layer of it altogether, but because there are negative beings influencing people, there are also positive, benevolent beings that we are connected to. I believe many of you listening to this right now have positive connections. It's helping you to wake up to more and more of who you are. And even think about, so we came here in a way to offset the negative timeline. There is a timeline and there is an agenda of the elite on the planet, which includes maybe the Rothschilds, maybe different family bloodlines. It involves celebrities are the people that garnish a lot of attention, so they're normally connected to these dark rituals. And one of the reasons this elite group does dark rituals is because they want to bring low vibrational energy onto the planet so that it can stay in lower vibration so that they can then influence it and stay here. They know their time is coming up, though. I want you guys to know that. Their time is coming up. We're waking up. We're becoming aware of who we are. And as time goes on, this is going to continue to avalanche. Now, they're going to continue. That was weird. Wow. Kind of scared me a little bit. I wonder what that was. I'm in my house right now, and as I was talking about some of this stuff, it's like something hit my window. I've never had that happen. I wonder what that was. It's like somebody banged down the window or something. I live in a guard-gated neighborhood, though, so I don't know what that was. Anyways, I don't believe that they will be. I think that right now the timeline we are on, as many of us are waking up, and that as we wake up, we put ourselves onto more and more positive timelines to where the negative timeline that exists basically is what they want to do. By they, the dark elite, whatever we want to call them, they want to influence reality to keep control on the planet. And one thing they do is they like to do this thing, the sequence where they have problem, reaction, solution. Problem is that they give a problem or they exaggerate a problem. And by the way, I was reading a book recently called Healing and Recovery by Dr. David Hawkins. And in it, it talks about how one of the biggest, if you can get people to believe that they're going to get sick or get this thing of he who must not be named, and you can infiltrate the mind of people, you then increase the probability that they can literally bring it into their reality. Am I saying it doesn't exist? No. But what I am saying is maybe it was in a way leveraged to have even more power because of the belief system of millions of people on the planet. And what happens is then you got the problem, and then you got people reacting in fear. And when they're reacting in fear, they're much more likely to listen to authority for certainty. And maybe even they'd be open to like vaccines and stuff. And maybe we wouldn't know like that. You see what I mean? That's the sequence. Oh, if we want people to say yes to this, put them in fear, or have this problem, put them in fear, and then they'll be open to this. Control. It's a control dynamic that's falling away. They're trying to retain the last bits of information, the last bits of control that they can, and one of the ways they do that is through manipulating the minds through the news media outlets, conspiracy theory that says that all the major news corporations that we see are owned by the same 6 companies. And there's a certain agenda out there that is to keep people into certain belief systems, keep people in fear. I think a lot of what's going on right now in the world, we believe it's going on. And because we believe it, that's why it has power. But we can change where we put our energy. And as we change where we put our energy, and as we come together, we literally are shifting our timeline to more positive timelines. That is something that I believe does exist as well. So another thing I kind of want, so there's these negative influences, which could be, and also realize this too. There's different levels to this stuff. When you talk about reptilians, that may be these lizard-like beings. Now, I'm not one of those people that's saying, oh, Justin Bieber's like all these things. Look at the way their eyes closed in this one video. I'm not that person, okay? But I do believe reptilians as 4D entities do exist on the planet. And I believe that they are also reflections. I believe we're all one. Here's the funny thing. We're all one. So even these negative beings that have negative intentions that are very service to self and have their own agenda, we're all connected. And what they represent to us is the reptilian part of our brain, which is very much service to self. Like even think about it, like an alligator baby doesn't have the nurturing of its mom. Whoa. That got deep so fast. A little crocodile baby does not have the nurturing of its mom. It just does its own thing. And then it's set for survival. And there's a reptilian part of our brain that I believe may represent to us that service to self aspect of ourselves. So in a way, I think that it's reflections of the most primal, non-nurtured part of our own consciousness. And even these elite celebrities and these people that are doing horrible rituals that involve very dark things on the planet, they are other aspects of our own consciousness because we're all connected. It changes the game because we really want to be able to blame and point our fingers and be like, look how bad they are. And yes, those things are wrong, no doubt about it. But at the deepest level, it's reflecting back a part of our own consciousness. And we're all connected. They just have forgotten who they are. And out of their desperate need for power, they do these dark rituals because they're being influenced. Because if they do that, they then get power, or they get to, or they don't get hurt because they already got sucked in too deep. So it's having compassion, I think, is very powerful for this. But in general, that's kind of what I believe is happening. Now, here's the thing. When all this negative influence of the planet of these ET, maybe there's more than just reptilians as well. I don't know. There's many different agendas going on, I believe. But as there's this negative influence, what happened is that call was put out to Earth, right? Or Earth says, hey, I need help. And we listened and we came and we forgot who we are so we can remember who we are. One of the reasons being is because we had free will on this planet. And the only real way to influence this planet was to do it the right way is from the inside out, which means incarnate it into the system and then changing it from the inside out. Versus, why don't the ETs just land and give us a whole bunch of technology and stuff and save us? That's a savior complex that is disempowering. We want to do this ourselves. We want to wake up ourselves. And we want to know that we can do it. And here's one of the things that I've been told or seen in books and stuff like that, is that what happens here on Earth is reflecting and is going out to the rest of the universe. There's more attention on Earth right now than there's ever been in the history of our planet, because we are ascending to a higher level of consciousness. And what happens here is going to show that no matter how dense it is, no matter how hard it is, no matter what the dynamics are, if we can do it at a mass level with 7 billion people on it, there are different planets that can do it as well. So it's becoming a very powerful signpost. And Earth is a very beautiful place. I know a lot of you starseeds listening to this, or light workers may be like, I just want to go home to my, where I don't have to deal with all this pain and this craziness. But we come here and we want to be able to eat the beautiful food. We want to be able to interact with other people. We came here to have a physical experience. Yes, we're moving into more non-physical states and life's becoming much more like a dream, but we came here to have this experience of enjoying life. Maybe in higher realms, we're not able to have sex or make love, but we can do that here. Maybe in higher realms, we're not able to eat the same kind of food that we can eat here on Earth. Maybe we don't even have to eat food in the higher realms, but it's a beautiful experience we're having. I think we came here to really relish in it, to really enjoy it, and to really enjoy this process of raising our vibration to a higher level of consciousness. Another conspiracy theory, maybe you guys have heard about Roswell. Roswell happened back in the 1920s or 30s in New Mexico. And what happened was a plane or a UFO crashed, and there were these 4 short beings inside of it. And apparently those beings spirits were inhabiting the body. I mean, I guess that's what we do too, inhabiting the body of these beings. And there was something that happened in the atmosphere to where then their UFO got crashed into New Mexico. And then, of course, they said it was a weather balloon and all this crazy stuff, but apparently it was more than a weather balloon. And I'll tell you what I personally... There is a document online that is like... I've heard somebody ask Bashar about this before. There's a document online of the Roswell information, and it's like the interviews, the transcripts of talking to... There was one being out of the 4, 3 died, or... they left their body or whatever. 1 lived, and they asked it a whole bunch of questions. And the questions were about how we live in this domain and all this stuff. And I remember it was very disempowering to read this transcript. It's kind of depressing about Earth and stuff. And I remember somebody asked Bashar, was this true, what was said in the transcripts on Roswell? And Bashar said basically no, that it wasn't empowering. And sometimes what the dark will do is they'll put out information that we think is real to keep us in states to where we feel like there's a lot of disinformation that gets put out there. And one of the reasons, like, if you look at the whole QAnon thing, for example, I'm not saying one way or the other, I don't know, but with the whole QAnon thing, I think it's very interesting. And I think that there is a big skewing from the media for it to look like this crazy, crazy thing. And a lot of the information that comes out about it may be false if you look on like the front page of Google, because then it diverts people into like not wanting to even look or question anything. And remember, that's why conspiracy theories exist. When you feel a negative jolt in your body when I say the word conspiracy theory, it's because it's been primed and anchored into you. Back in the day, they would associate conspiracy theorists as being crazy and weird and all these things so that it would deter you from wanting to question the government, to want to question what's going on. And then what they do is they may put out all these crazy lunatic conspiracy theories so we don't know which is true, which is not true, and then we just write it all off and not question the government at all, believe everything at face value. Now, when we talk about Roswell, though, the one thing I wanted to mention, I believe that the transcripts that came out, I believe that was manipulated. I don't think that's actually true. But also, I believe that one of the reasons we actually have the technology jump that we had back in the 1930s to the 1950s with computers, I believe is because of Roswell. Maybe we had it before, I don't know. But look at the huge jump we had from no television to all of a sudden having television, not that long later having internet. Our reality is completely transformed, and I believe that maybe part of it had to do with the reverse engineering of technology that was found in these ships. So I know I'm just reporting here. So, yeah, I think right now in an energetic way, what's happening, just to clear this up and put a more positive spin on it, is the old systems are falling away. The power dynamic that has existed for so long is falling away. There's going to be a circus on the planet for a while as we observe what's happening. The very important part of you is to stay anchored in your own energy, to not get sucked into the drama. Yes, it's happening, but you don't have to let your energy get completely pulled into it. And I think that the old systems have to fall away before something new can go in. There's going to be last effort agendas of the negative, elite people to try to retain their power. So with this whole election thing, who knows what's going to happen? I think it'll be dragged out a while. I do think that Biden is very much controlled. So while Trump may look like, have a certain persona, be extraordinarily polarizing, I believe he's a little bit less as controlled because of how sporadic his own personality is in comparison to Biden, who I believe is pretty much completely controlled. That's just my personal opinion on it. And I'm not a politics person. I do not study politics that much. I just get my own intuitional sense that it's all a puppet show. And the old systems are falling away so that the new ones can be set. I believe that a lot of this is about breaking down the belief systems that we have of society. We're looking for someone to save us. Is that as if the president is going to save us? And the thing we got to remember is that we are buying into a system that is completely rigged. We're buying into a system that may not be what we think it is. We're giving the illusion, if I make you pick yellow or green and you pick one of those, you say, I got to choose. When really there's all these other colors right here, but we didn't even know about those because I only gave you two choices. And both of those choices, by the way, had strings attached. That's kind of the idea of what happens. So, there's also a timeline. I'm kind of hopping around a little bit right now, but there's also, Bashar's talked a lot about this before and other people. You know when there's this whole gray alien abduction thing? Grays. Apparently grays come from a parallel reality of Earth. And Bashar's talked about this many times. I'm a huge fan of Bashar. Grays are a mutated form of human that progressed at such a level intellectually but lost their connection to their soul and spirit along the way. And they became so good at technology, they became so good at this stuff, but they mutated into a different form, and that's why they look like the Greys. They look completely different than humans. And they're, in a way, connecting to us right now because they come from a parallel reality where they destroyed themselves And one of the reasons there's a lot of abductions that happen is because they're using the genetics so that they can continue their species. And that's why there's a lot of it. Now, don't be afraid as most people are of the alien abductions, because what Bashar also says, and other beings say is, other information says, is that it's agreed to at the higher level. Even though the physical level may not remember, oh, I agreed to this alien abduction thing, at a higher level it was given permission to, or it wouldn't have happened. So maybe it could be also that somebody that has had an alien abduction maybe has a parallel incarnation in the Grey Society, and they're in a way helping, but they're afraid in the human form because they forgot that connection. I know it sounds I told you we're getting weird in this episode. There's different agendas going on, though. I think many ET beings they may be humanoid. I think the higher dimensional ones, the higher vibrational ones, are completely loving, and they realize that we're all connected, so they only want the best for us. Now, there are negative beings that maybe don't have the best intentions. There are many different agendas going on right now. And on the earth, we are so caught in our own reality of the whole tax thing and what's going on that we're not aware that there's this whole kind of war on consciousness happening, and it's coming from the inside out. And what the key is for us to wake up, literally to wake up to more of who we are. And I think it's very positive what's happening. There's a harvest happening. I think many of us are going to wake up and are in the process of waking up. And yes, there'll be a little bit of a circus show on the outside, or maybe a lot of it. There's going to be desperate grabs of harnessing the attention of people. However, I believe that we're waking up. Now, let me go to... That's on my Instagram. Okay. Let me answer some questions real quick. Anna says, are aliens good? Could we be aliens? So aliens themselves, just like there's many good humans and evil humans, there's also evil and good ETs. I'd say a lot of them that we're in contact with are actually positive because they're higher vibrational beings. And they're, in a way, reaching their consciousness down in vibration, and we're raising our vibration up in vibration so that we can communicate either in dream time. When you go to bed at night, I believe that you are awake to these higher states of consciousness, but you forget when you wake up. You get certain dreams that, represent certain things of your subconscious mind and certain levels of growth, but many of you are awake in higher dimensional states of consciousness doing things you couldn't really even possibly imagine from the human sense. Now, are aliens good? Some are, some aren't. It just kind of depends. The best thing you could do is raise your vibration so that you're not influenced by negative ones. Byra Rose said, do you think in our dreams at times we've jumped into another body of our own DNA? Yeah, it's a perfect segue, because that's exactly what I think. It's like we wake up into higher states of consciousness. I know that Bashar says, he comes from a planet that's a little bit out of our reality, in a different dimensional state of existence in the Orion constellation, that there's people in dream state that literally will pop into that reality, have experiences, and then when they wake up, they disintegrate and go back to their body. It's like the astral field as well. So yeah, I think so for sure. Is Joe Rogan an alien? I don't think so. I think he's human. Here's the thing too to remember. We are all human. We're not aliens. We're humans, but we are eternal spiritual beings that have parallel incarnations on different planetary systems. That's what I believe. So it's my belief. I'm just reporting what I believe. Not telling you what to believe. But so when people say, oh, I'm Lyran, I'm Pleiadian, I'm this. No, you are a human that has a connection to a parallel incarnation that may be connected to the Pleiades. You may have a strong connection to the Pleiades as a soul, but you in this life, right, it takes away from the attention and the energy of this reality now. So that's something to be aware of. Let's see. Some of these questions are not about ETs. I was asking about conspiracy theories. Second wave of He Who Must Not Be Named that happened at the beginning of the year. Why is New Zealand doing so well? Maybe it has to do with their media. Maybe they're not influencing and shoving it down their throats the belief system that says it's going to get worse. Oh my gosh, like the count ticker that is on all news stations here in the U.S. And therefore their belief system is not allowing it in to get as bad, because remember, the mind influences the body. That's my experience of that. What do you think about the election fraud, and is Trump going to win? I don't know if Trump's going to win. I know that I knew that even when the election started that there was something fishy. Just like at the beginning of the year with the whole thing that was going on when everyone was in mass hysteria about what was going on, I could feel that someone was fishy. Apparently, there's a lot of votes coming in from people that have been deceased, people that are 130 years old, like crazy stuff like that. I do believe that there was definitely a lot of voter fraud that was happening. Will Trump? I don't know if Trump will stay. I think that there's a lot that the whole Biden thing, I think there's a lot of control behind that, and that they really don't want Trump to stay, so they may try to do everything they can, but we will see what happens. I didn't think, honestly, numbers-wise, I mean, I'm from Arizona. I have a place in Arizona, and I was in Arizona, and literally all you see is Trump everywhere. Trump billboards, Trump bumper stickers, people talking about Trump, Trump rallies. I never saw a Biden rally in even Sedona, which is more of a hippie town. And I went to Phoenix to fly to Vegas like 3 days ago, and Trump is everywhere. Phoenix is one of the biggest cities, has a huge bearing on which way Arizona would sway, yet Arizona went blue, which blows my mind. So I knew something was fishy there. Just in general, that's just the feeling I get that, it's a lot of voter fraud. I don't know if Trump will stay in. I don't know what's going on with that. Agenda 21. I don't know much about Agenda 21. I know that I believe that Bill Gates is not a good dude. I went to the gym recently, and I have a friend who really likes Bill Gates. And I'm like, bro, I don't think Bill Gates is the most integral person. Like, even Joe Rogan shared a video of Bill Gates talking to someone else, to a news anchor lady that actually got fired after this interview, but she was like super questioning him. And he's like, yeah, I think you can see in his body language, it's completely lying. It's completely out of authenticity. But he's talking about the vaccines, and it was very interesting. But you can tell that I don't think Bill Gates is a genuine, I think he's a puppet, though. We can be mad at Bill Gates, but Bill Gates is just a puppet that's trying to bring out a certain agenda. It doesn't make it right, but it just, like this Agenda 21 thing, I've seen, the thing, I think a lot of this was primed that there would be some type of thing like this happening, if he who must not be named at the beginning of this year that happened. Because 6 years ago, you had Bill Gates talking about the next pandemic and priming the collective for it. So it's interesting to see how that works, because the way our reality works is there is free will. But one of the things they do is they in a way let us know via media, movies, what they're planning on doing. Like a movie like Contagion, for example. And it's like we watch a movie, they're showing it to us, and then we agree, or we like the movie or whatever, and then it happens. It's like, well, they showed us, so they did the free will of our reality. It's interesting. Like a lot of people, you asked about election fraud. I definitely think there's a lot of election fraud that was happening. No doubt about that. And in my humble opinion, the Denver airport Illuminati theory. So I don't know what the Illuminati theory is. I do know that the Denver airport, when I was going through my awakening in 2012, I looked at a lot of the stuff going on with the statues and the artwork, and it is so obvious that it is connected to some type of Illuminati connection or something like that. Almost hysterical, almost so much and so obvious that it's so in your face. Literally Egyptian statues. You know what I mean? And I remember seeing this guy that was posting, they joke around about it. There's this huge, wallpapers at Denver airport that says, some people believe that this is an underground facility where we harvest ET experiments and stuff like that. And it's almost like they're telling us. And then it sounds so ridiculous. I was like, oh yeah, obviously that's a joke, right? But I think that's how they work sometimes. They literally get off on stuff like that. Look how funny this is. Also, just so you guys know, I've known someone in my life that has worked at underground operations that has told me 100% that ET do exist, and that the government knows about it, and there's as many different races as you can imagine as there are different birds or animals, and that there's underground cities, there's underground bases that are beyond what we can even imagine. That's what I've been told. I've talked about that in other episodes, but this is someone I trust. It's someone I've known almost my whole life. And, I'll just say that. So, do you believe in reptilians? I'm not sure what to believe when it comes to the topic. I don't focus so much on it, but I do believe that reptilians exist. I believe there are fourth density beings, mainly normally negative and manipulative, and they have their own agenda, and they're trying to influence certain people of the surface population to remain in control so that they can stay here on Earth, because they've been banished from many other places in the universe and the solar system. So they come to Earth, and this is a place where they could still have somewhat of power because there's somewhat low density still here, but we're raising our vibration out of it. Let's see, let me ask you. QAnon, I don't really, my feeling on QAnon is that there's some truth in it. But my feeling as well is that just like there's different agendas that exist, there may be different degrees of agendas that exist within QAnon. Maybe it's not all 100% positive, like some people believe. Maybe there's also other, but it's much more positive than the negative, obviously, of the elite. So I don't know. I haven't studied it too much. But there's something about it that definitely seems like maybe there's some merit to it. But I don't give my power away to it, and I'm not like a huge diehard fan or anything like that. I'm just kind of aware, and I studied certain things, a little bit of certain things. I stay in my lane, though, for the most part. Yes, I'm talking about some esoteric stuff right now, but I mainly want to help people raise their vibration, and it doesn't necessarily serve me to go down certain rabbit holes if it gives me weird dreams and tunes me into lower vibration. So that's just my personal feeling on it. Download upgrades are real, Mandy says. Yeah, I think that we do get upgrades. I remember this one in Cosmic Disclosure episode. They talked about this underground. There's literally higher dimensional beings that live within the earth as well. I know this sounds esoteric. I told you I was getting weird on this episode. And one of the stories of, I believe it was Corey Good on Cosmic Disclosure, he talks about how there were these beings, they're the higher dimensional beings that are also human. They were in these little pods in this room, and in these pods, they would, in a way, be able to locate and go to the surface population and go to people. And what they could do is they could literally drop nuggets of information within people's energetic fields that would then influence them in a more positive timeline. And that's what they would do. So, downloads many times may come from our higher selves, and may come from beings that are trying to help us out. That's why if we raise our vibration, we can then tune into them. And imagine they drop a bubble of information within our field, and then we just find that we get certain thoughts or certain ideas that puts us on a new timeline. And they can, in these pods, see different timelines that would put us on if they did that. So it's kind of interesting. I believe at higher levels, maybe it's something that we agree to. Speak about the Anunnaki. Anunnaki is a whole different conversation in itself. There could probably be a whole episode on Anunnaki. I'm not an expert at Anunnaki, but basically what Bashar has said is that we have within us many different ET DNA. And if the human DNA was not influenced hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago, we would actually look very different than what we do. We may actually look like, I think what Bashar said is that we would literally be Sasquatch. Not like metaphorically, Sasquatch is if we would not have been influenced by the Anunnaki and our DNA had been changed, we would be that, we'd be like that, that's what we would be. But our DNA has been changed at many different levels and connected to many different star systems. Could be Pleiades, Anunnaki, Lyran, these different connections. Mars, I told you this episode was getting weird, but I believe that we are a mix of many different ET races. But we think, oh, I'm human, and we're actually connected. That's why when we do have contact one day, it'll be a connection to other aspects of ourself in a way that we have connect at a deep level. So, do ETs have a belly button? That is a great question. Do they have an umbilical cord? Not all of them. That means they have an umbilical cord to their mom. Not all of them, but maybe some of them. I think there's a lot of humanoids. Bipedal, they call it bipedal humanoids. Bipedal meaning 2 feet. Are aliens going to be peaceful or hostile? Like I said, it just really depends. There's just it's are animals aggressive or nice? Depends on the animal, right? So it just depends, I think. I think there's good, there's bad. Satanic Hollywood and Democrats and all that, please. So I think there's a level or a faction of the dark elite that have a connection to Hollywood, and a lot of the elite, some of the elite celebrities on Hollywood, because they harness attention, they influence them. So I do think that's a thing. I think there's some very dark rituals they do that involve very dark things. And one of the reasons they do it is because it makes them feel powerful. And once they're in, they're in. I don't think there's a way they can really get out, because if they did, they're either going to be blackmailed or killed. And yeah, it's very interesting. Let's see. How are conspiracy theories created? I think there's different levels the way they're due. Some are created to literally deflect and to distract people and to kind of make people get turned off to conspiracy theories. So some of them are completely fake. Some of them, though, come from people observing and questioning their reality and questioning their government or questioning what's going on. So just in the same way, there's good beings, there's bad beings, there's different ET beings in the reality. There's conspiracy theories that are created with good intention, bad intention, observation, and trying to deflect or influence people in a negative way. Anyways, do you guys like this kind of episode? That's what I want to know too. We're getting towards an hour of this episode, almost like over 50 minutes. If you like this episode, can you do me a favor? Can you screenshot it and then put it on IG stories and then tag me? I'm going to be sharing and resharing people that do that. And then also it lets me know that you guys want more on this. Let me know if that's something that you want me to do. I could do a whole nother episode on stuff like this. There's so many more questions I could answer. Let me know, and I will do another episode on this. Other than that, I think I'm going to stop it there for today. I have a meeting here in like 6 minutes. I have like a business call with somebody. My financial guy. I got a financial guy now that's helping me with the finances of my business. So I got to go get on that call. But anyways, I appreciate all you guys being here. I want you to know I love you guys. And once again, I'll talk to you guys on another episode. Peace, much love, and namaste.